we're going to talk about how to use the emergency features on an Android phone. And I'll also give you a link for how to do this on iPhone, which is not dissimilar, but the steps are a little bit more specific for iPhone. But again, I'm working with an Android phone. So we're going to talk about some of the new emergency features that they've added to the latest version of the Android operating system, which are really helpful, I think. And I actually haven't been using them until now, and I'm really glad to know about them and how to set them up. So hopefully they'll be useful to you too. Okay, so I'm going to show you where these sort of built-in features on your phone exist, so how to access them. One thing to keep in mind, if you're not somebody that does regular updates of the operating system on your phone, it's a good idea to do that. Because if you haven't done those, you might have, these features might be in a different place. This is the newest version of the operating system for Android. So let me just show you how to do that if that's not something that you usually do. I think we talked about this before, but just as a refresher. Okay, so if you scroll, sorry, I went to the gear for settings, and then you scroll all the way down, and you're going to go to software updates. It's this purple icon right here that has a little arrow on it. So this is just to make sure you've got the latest software. I know that I do because I checked it earlier today. So what you'll see is here where it says download and install, that's what you want to do. Okay. And if it's not letting you install it because you don't have enough memory on your phone, then you can go in and use some of the tricks that we've talked about before for clearing out some of the memory so that you can install the newest version, which is really helpful to have. So you'll just click on there, check for updates for you, and it'll say mine's up to date. If it's not, it'll give you the newest one and tell you to go ahead and update. Okay. So that's the first thing. All right, so we're going to scroll back up. We're in the same place, so the settings menu. And you'll see something, it's red and it says safety and emergency. That's where all the built-in emergency features on your phone are going to be. Okay, so let's just click on this and see what it says. All right, so we have a number of different categories here. So we have medical info, emergency contacts, send an SOS message, wireless emergency alerts, emergency location service, silence notifications while driving, and emergency mode. So we're going to start at the top. All right, so medical info. This is a place where you can store medical information about yourself, and it can be accessed by paramedics, by bystanders, by anyone who might need to see it without having to unlock your phone, okay? So this can be really helpful if somebody has access to your phone and you can't communicate in case of an emergency. So if somebody did call the ambulance and you couldn't speak to the paramedics on your own, they could check your phone and see what your medical conditions are if you have any allergies to medication. So let me show you how this works. All right, so you're gonna go in, like I said, and click on medical info. You'll see I don't have much in here right now, but let's just, say, I'm gonna say that I don't have any medical conditions. Let's say this is not true, but I'll change it after the fact. Like, let's say I'm allergic to penicillin, which I probably won't spell right. Something like that. Yeah. Okay, current medications. You can put in your current medications. Your blood type, I put in O positive, and anything else. So, you could say that you are recently being treated for blank, or like any sort of medical information that might be helpful in that place. You can even put an emergency contact in there, even though there's other places in here to also put an emergency contact. So this is just sort of the information you would want someone to know if they were accessing medical care for you, okay? So let's just say, that's all I'm gonna put in for now. I'm gonna save it. And let me show you where they would access this, okay? So most of you, I imagine, have some sort of password or, when you do the little pattern on your phone, so some sort of lock security. So if you go to your home screen, all right, so this is unlocked. We're just gonna press the button, the top right-hand button, just to lock it so we can see how this works. All right, so you see my phone goes black. I'm gonna press it again. So now this is a locked screen. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and unlock my screen. Actually, no, I'm not, I'm sorry. I'm gonna scroll up from the bottom of the screen without it unlocking. And you're going to see down at the bottom, there's a thing that says emergency call. You're going to hit that. And when you do that, and we'll talk about some of these other features on here as well, but if somebody was accessing your phone, they could click here. You see down here, there's a little red icon that says medical info. That's what you want to click on. And you'll see that that information that I put in is popping up. So it says my allergies, it says my emergency contacts, which I put in somewhere else. So that is something that is then accessible to someone, even if they don't know how to unlock your phone, and that can be really helpful in medical emergencies. You do want to make sure that you're not putting information on here that you certainly wouldn't want people to know, because it can be publicly accessed. But critical medical information, I think it's worth it to have on here so that someone could see that if you couldn't communicate it to them in an emergency. Okay, but the latest operating system is what's going to allow you to use these features. So let me just show you one more thing. And if you're not able to update your phone right now in order to see this, you can always come back to the video after you've been able to update it and go through these steps. Because like I said, some of this emergency information stuff is new. And it's all for Android. Okay, so I'm going to show you a quick workaround in case this is not something you have access to yet, okay? So on your phone, it might not look like this, like I'm saying, if you haven't done the update, but you can do something where you go to lock screen, okay? So you should have something around here about midway down your settings that says lock screen. Okay. And so if you go there, you can scroll down and you can add, you should see a place, it says roaming clock widgets, and then it says contact information. All right, and even though that says contact information, you can actually use that for whatever you want, okay? So I could say on here, allergic to penicillin. In case of emergencies, call Les. I'm not going to put his number on here, but SOS. So I'm just going to do that as an example, and I'm going to say done. Okay. So if you do that, even if you don't have the updated version, you can go to your lock screen. Let me show you. So I just locked it. I'm unlocking it. I just locked it, and you'll see on my lock screen, it'll say I'm allergic to penicillin, and in case of emergency, contact Les. And if I was doing this for real, I would put Les's phone number on there. Okay, so that would be accessible even if I didn't have the newest emergency features. So that's like the quickest, easiest workaround for that somebody could see that in case of an emergency and just know your emergency details. But then again, let's go back to the new safety and emergency features. Okay, so I did my medical information. Emergency contact, so that's what showed up at the bottom of my medical information. Emergency contacts, by default, it'll put 911 in there. So that will be a number that will be in there for you to make an emergency call, and I'll show you how to do that. Then you can add whoever you want to as a contact, and I think it's unlimited how many people you can add as a contact. I have Les in here. You might want to add a couple of close family members. And the thing about this is that not only will somebody see this if they access your medical information, also these are people that you can call if you put your phone into emergency mode, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So what you would do to add a new emergency contact is just hit that pencil and start typing in whoever you want to add to it. And again, you can add a number of people on here. So let me show you, now that I have my emergency contacts in here, I'm going to show you one way that those emergency contacts are sort of made to be available to you in case of an emergency. So again, we're going to go back. I'm going to lock my phone. All right. So we go to the lock screen. We swipe up from the bottom. We're going to hit that emergency call button again. All right. And notice when I hit that emergency call button, I don't have to unlock my phone. So I don't have to go through the process of putting in a password or drawing a pattern or anything like that, because it's acknowledging that I'm in the midst of an emergency and I might not have time to do that. Okay. So anyone I have then put in my emergency contacts, I can call from this place without unlocking my phone. So I have 911 and I have Les. All right. And if I had more contacts in here, I could do that as well. All right. So that That's one way to bypass the lock screen in order to make a call in case of an emergency. So even if you're just on your lock screen, you just scroll up, hit emergency call, and you can call either of those people. Anybody that's on that emergency contact list, it will be accessible even without unlocking your phone. So, all right, so if you have an older version of this, if you go to where we are right now in this, so if you swipe up from your lock screen, you'll see medical info on the bottom there. It's just a different way to get into it. So you'll swipe up from the bottom and see this little thing that says medical info, and you can enter it from there, okay? So if you have an older version, that's a workaround for that. Okay, and it tells you where to go. Okay, so we're gonna go back into that screen. So the safety and emergency. We're gonna skip SOS for now. This one's pretty straightforward. Has anybody, like, you get those emergency alerts when your phone just starts going, and then it'll tell you, like, you know, there's a hurricane warning, or there's a Amber Alert, something like that. And everybody's phone goes off at once. You can turn those are all automatically turned on, and I would, you know, suggest leaving them on, but this is where you can modify them. Your national alerts are going to be automatic. You can't opt out of national alerts, but you know, you can get information about extreme threats, Amber Alerts, public safety messages. So you can also set up how these alerts are sent to you. So is your phone going to vibrate? You can turn it on so that you'll receive emergency alerts in Spanish if that option is available. So that's just a way that you can sort of make sure you're getting those messages. And if you might have unchecked one of those over time and now you want to check it, it's a good time to check on those and just see what you have. Yeah. Right. Emergency location service, what that is, and this works in New York, is that if you dial 911, they will automatically send your location via your phone. And that can be really helpful if you're not able to talk in the instance of when you're calling 911. Your location will automatically be sent and they will come to that location where your phone is. Okay, so I suggest turning that on. I think it's really useful, just, you know, not knowing what kind of emergency situation you might be in. And I think it is on by default. I might be wrong about that. So check it out on your phone just to make sure. Silence notifications while driving is pretty self-explanatory. So if you're driving, just to be safe, you might want to turn off your notifications. And then, okay, so I'm going to show you this last one, which is emergency mode. This is another way that those emergency contacts can be really helpful. When you go into emergency mode, what that does is it dims the light on your phone. It really limits the graphics on it, and it limits the apps that you can access. And the reason why it does this is so that you can extend the battery life for a much, much longer period of time. So say there was, I don't know, like a power outage, and you didn't know when or where you might have the ability to charge your phone, but you did need to have access to limited internet, and you needed to be able to make emergency calls if anything happens. This is a really, really helpful thing to use in that situation. So you'll see right now that my battery power is at 65%. It's not terrible, it's not great. But let's say, you know, suddenly there was a power outage and you know, I have 65% battery for I don't know how long. It could be a very long time. This is what happens if you go into emergency mode. Let me just click it for you. So it actually tells you too that your home screen will be changed to dark mode. Okay, so it'll scale down in order to not use as much battery. You'll be able to use messages, contacts, and emergency calls, but other apps and functions will be restricted, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on just to show you what this looks like. Oh, and you'll see too, you'll have access to a flashlight. Like that's one of the things on there too. They're thinking of like what you might need in case of an emergency. So I'm gonna turn that on. It takes a second to go into the right mode. And I think it probably isn't showing on your screen right now as it goes into that mode. Oh yeah, and it actually has stopped sharing on my screen because it's gone into emergency mode. So let me show you it from this perspective. Okay, so what it does, you'll see, is it gives you the option to make an emergency call or share your location or use the internet. And it also gives you a flashlight in case you need it. All right, so let's say I needed to make an emergency call. It asks me if I want to call 911, and I can say yes. I'm going to say no because I don't want to do that right now. And then it can use my phone for my emergency contacts as well. So this, in case of like a, I don't know how much power I have, this is a really great tool to know. The emergency call too, like the default is going to be 911. So just keep that in mind. Otherwise, try and use your phone to make a emergency call to one of your other contacts. But it will ask you before you dial 911. So you won't accidentally do that. And one of the things I want to point out to you is I had 64% battery, which I think, would have lasted me maybe through the end of the day. Now in emergency mode, it's saying that I have 1 day and 14 hours of battery remaining. So that's what it does. It really extends the time that you have available on your phone's battery. And that can be really, really helpful in critical situations. Okay, so I'm going to turn off emergency mode. Get myself out of that. There we go. Turn off emergency mode. So to do that, what I did is there's 3 dots right here on the left. And I just click those. The top right-hand corner, you're going to click the 3 dots and it'll say turn off emergency mode. And then it'll just go back to your normal phone function. So again, that can be really helpful in moments where you're very unsure about when you might have access to electricity to recharge your phone. That can be helpful too, even if it's like, you're not in an emergency, but you certainly want to have some access to your phone and your phone's about to die. I've used it for that before, just to make sure that if there were an emergency, you would have some power in your phone to make that work. Okay. And again, remember to check on your updates before you do this, because once you update your Android phone, you should be able to see this all in the, in the menus that I showed you.